Hello, everybody. How are you? Hello, hello, hello. I hope everybody's doing very well. My name is Mahleej, and you're watching me on my YouTube channel. Wherever you're watching me, make sure you like that page, subscribe, like, share. So, how is everyone doing? Today's stream is going to be in English. I know I would highly request for you guys to please go and watch this on my English stream. That would help me out a lot with my watch time hours. Okay, so we have our guest for today. A lot of the people here know Nuriyah Khan, but for those who don't know, I don't know too much history about her, but she is a new face in the ex-Muslim world, you can say, in the community. One of the very beautiful ones, and she's very outspoken. And the best part is that she can actually speak English. She's obviously she lives overseas, so she can spread her message across all over the world, not only in Pakistan, but especially in the West, because that's where we need to tell people what Islam is, what it is doing, because it is here in the West. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring Nuriyah Khan, and she can explain you more about herself and tell her story. Hi, Nuriyah, how are you?
Hi, Mahleej. I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me on your channel. This is a pleasure.
No problem. You're looking awesome.
Thank you. Right back at you. You look really, really nice.
So I'm so glad that we are able to finally do this. It's been pending. Everyone's been like, bring Nuriyah, but it's so good.
Yeah, no, honestly, it was about time that you and I did whether it's in Urdu or English, but about time that we collaborated. So thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah, no, I am actually planning, I'll contact you about it too, because some of the girls have contacted me and they want to do like a girls only. And this is not only Pakistanis. There is a Saudi woman. There's Deborah that is Canadian. There is Sahara, she's Somalian. Yes. So we will have like a mixture of different women. Then there's Salatin, there's Labelle, you, me. So if we have like 6-7 girls, it would be like a Christmas or end of the year, girl power thing.
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds like so much fun. We should definitely do that.
I think, the men in Pakistan or the Muslim men get really butthurt when it's women that speak up. They're not too worried about men. What do you think about that?
Yeah, exactly. I think, like I've said this before, it really irks them that extra bit when women speak out. Because, honestly, there's like some schools of thoughts where women aren't even like, there's nothing about apostasy or women because they just don't think a woman has the courage to ever renounce Islam, let alone talk about like the misogynistic aspects of our society and our culture and kind of like the toxic patriarchy that it's built on. So, men speaking about it is still, you can dismiss it as a man and just be like, their opinions are a bit whack. But when a woman is telling you, this is what I've been through and this is what the system has done to me and this is what our society expects me to be, and I'm going to reject it all, it does really piss them off more. And I think it's amazing, as you're saying, like there are now quite a lot of us, and I think the more that we kind of get together and relay our experiences and kind of put the woman's perspective on things, it's just even Sultan Salatin and the conversations that she's having, they're getting banned left, right and center by the Pakistani government, right? And that's just one woman. So yeah, I think we definitely wield some power in that sense, and we should use it.
And I would think because for men, it's a man's religion, to be honest. You can have as many wives, you can do whatever, you rule over the women, so I can see what should happen is like women should leave that religion because it has no rights for them. But we don't see that happening. And for someone to think that, oh, why would women leave this religion? Women should leave this religion because there's nothing in the religion for them. So
literally, it's like so easy. Sorry, it's so easy for a woman to reject Islam. Like basics are just, we don't have to even go into like some of the things that the men really kind of reckoned with, like, oh, philosophical arguments or like science being wrong. We're just like, look at what it does to women. This is enough for you to be like, no, thank you.
No, that was the case with me. I didn't leave Islam because I was told that there's this and this and this and this. My mother left it. Obviously, she went back to her older religion. And but what I saw, how women were treated, how my mother was treated, how I was treated as a woman, that just didn't resonate. And then when I saw it, other religions like, Christianity, I was like, oh my God, they have so much freedom. And then there was a couple of things always came in my head, but when you're young, we are told, oh, don't think about it. It's shaitan bhadka raha hai,
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm going to go to hell for even thinking about this. So let's start with your story. So tell us where you were born. Let's start from there.
Okay, yeah. So I was born in England, and I lived here till I was 9. And that's when I was kind of like, just a really good young Muslim girl, very young, wasn't I? A really good Muslim girl. So at that phase, like I lived with the extended family, and my grandparents had like quite a massive influence on my life because we were kind of living under the same roof, and they're quite conservative and religious. My granddad was like the imam of the local mosque, so he'd have the keys to it, kind of like go for Fajr prayer, all the prayers, do the azan, and me and him were quite close as well. So I really was interested in like Quran, and I'd go to class every day after school. And I started like really wanting to be able to like recite the Quran well, and I'd like represent Islam in school. We had religious education, and I was wearing a hijab already at that point, so I'd like demonstrate to the class how to read namaz. I was like very, like pro-Islam as part of my identity.
Do you have any pictures in hijab?
Oh my gosh, I do some old family albums, but I do not think they would ever find their way to the internet. It's so
good because I did the same thing with Deborah when I did an interview with her. I put her hijab picture and then her being free picture, and it's just those pictures are so powerful, so I think you should definitely do that before and then after.
It's true. I think for me it was less because I was like 9 and I was like, I didn't really know anyway. Now I'm like, maybe it was a phase or whatever. But yeah, I mean, and obviously then when you wear it like ritualistically, when you're going to even some parts of Pakistan, there's pictures where we've all kind of got our head covered. But oh my God, no, I can't. As powerful as it is, I can't.
I never got to wear the hijab. It's just like because we were in the city, but when we would go to the village, I remember like passing the village, and because I was getting older, my dad would be like, he would tell me to like cover. It wasn't like that. So when we were going, we would just cover like this. Like I had to hold my dupatta on the air conditioning so I could breathe. It was like so hot. It's so hot,
Oh my gosh.
And it was only for like, 5 minutes until we passed the main village. And then we were like, okay, now we don't. But yeah, no, it was just weird. Guys, you can ask questions if you want. I will be taking questions after we're done with our interview. I was thinking maybe an hour and then 20 minutes of questions and stuff. But at the end, I will take questions if you are sending super chats. Via super chats, you can do it on my Urdu channel. Mahleej, that is Tolia. I know it is Tolia.
Thanks for stating the obvious. It was a demonstration of this kind of ridiculous.
But even if you're in that situation, you think they're gonna give a shit, like care what you have? No, any
Tolia is better than nothing. Yeah,
on you if they have to.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were in UK, you said, for 9 years, and then what happened? Back?
Yeah, so then basically what happened was when I was 9, we moved to the Middle East, and that's where I kind of grew up and spent most of my, I'd say all my teenage years, and then I lived there as an adult again. So we moved to Saudi Arabia when I was 9, and that's like the actual kind of ironic point, because going to the Holy Land and going to live like so close to Mecca and in such a religious society, that's where I kind of started becoming actually liberal compared to what I was when I was in England.
Really?
Because yeah, it's so weird. You'd think like going to the holy city would just make me, be like, oh my gosh. But it was the opposite. And I do think a lot of it was to do with education and my schooling. It was a very, very international school. So I met people from all over the world, and like I didn't even know about these other Islamic denominations, like Shia, Ahmadi, all this kind of thing. And I'd met them in Saudi, and I like even my Shia friends would have to be so careful because Saudi doesn't, treat them well. So they'd go to their separate like areas to pray, because obviously they pray different outwardly from like Sunnis. And I was just like a bit like, wow, this is Muslim to Muslim beef, which I didn't really know about before. And then I had friends from Lebanon, and they were talking to me about their practices and like all these various mountainous regions where they had practices combining Islam and Christianity. And I was like, oh, that's actually so much cooler than the version I follow. So like these things are happening in the background because I'm assimilating and meeting all these people in the school. And Islam is like just constantly in your life because you live in Saudi Arabia anyway. So you hear the call to prayer 5 times a day. The shops open and close like dependent on prayer times. I had to cover up like to school. We'd go on a bus from the compound, which is all like expats. So that's like, imagine like a mini America, like on a compound, you can wear a bikini, you can go swimming, you could drive quad bikes, not cars. You're still not allowed to drive cars as the woman. But you might use,
even if you're a foreigner, you can't drive a car. Eh?
No. You could sneak around or two, but you're technically not allowed.
So there are compounds for people, foreigners and stuff, where they can live like, you know, the way they want.
Yeah, so basically when you go to Saudi Arabia, the company that hires you, because it's considered a hardship zone and it's like, you know, because it's Saudi Arabia, so they give you like, they take care of schooling and everything. They give you flights, like 4 flights home every year on like business class. They give you a lot of incentives basically to move your family to Saudi Arabia. And then what they do is the expat community lives like in compounds. So we had actually a lot of American military in our compound. We were joined to Raytheon. And there was people from everywhere, but within that, like the rules are obviously way more lax than outside. But again, like women, you could only take like the actual, they call them limousines, but they're just cars, but the limousine taxi service of the compound to and like shopping centers and stuff. Cause you know, you can't, that's like the only safest way for a woman to travel. But this is, it's very chill. Like there's swimming pools, people from everywhere. So that like my friends would actually, their parents would brew their own like wine at home and beer at home. It would take months, but people are kind of trying to live their normal life in this. It's a bubble. It's definitely a bubble. But yeah, so that was incredible. That was the best time of my life. And some people are like, oh, like how did you like growing up in Saudi so much? But it was honestly like you can keep your front door open. It's so safe. You'd meet your friends at school. You'd come home. You've got a skate park. You've got bowling alley. You've got it's like a holiday camp that you're living in. Mm-hmm. So naturally, I'm like speaking to all these people, making all these friends, kind of getting really exposed to stuff. But then on the flip side, as I said, like I'm 9 years old and I still need to wear an abaya. Going shopping and stuff is a weird experience. You know, you even at 9, like you're wearing an abaya, you're not obligated to cover your head at that point. It's like when you get to about 12, 13. When I was in Saudi Arabia, I think they've kind of phased them out. MBS has phased them out now, but the Mutawwa, the Islamic police, would actually come and tell you to like cover up. So when you're younger, that they're a bit more lax on you. But yeah, it was just weird because even like in school, I'm interacting so casually with guys. And then if you were ever seen in the outside context, if we were to go to a restaurant or if we go to the mall and you see like these Islamic officials, you need to separate like quick time. And one of my friends actually was walking with me in a mall, but he had long blonde hair from the back. He had like that skater look going on. And thank God they actually thought he was a girl from far away from behind. But otherwise you have to prove, because you're not supposed to be out with somebody who's like a non-mahram. So yeah, obviously friends
I think you also spoke to Iman. She's also from Saudi Arabia, right? I spoke to her and she would tell her story how she was flogged and, you know, this police, the Sharia police that is up there, they would come. And because she was a local, so she faced it more than you probably did. So then what happened after you were in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, so basically, I'm like living my best life as a teenager in Saudi Arabia. And then also contrary to this, I'm having experiences where we're going to do Umrah quite a lot of times, which is like for English speaking people, like the short pilgrimage of Mecca, the lighter version compared to Hajj. But so I was doing that as well. So I was still very connected to my religion. And as I said, because it's like overpowering by the state, you don't need to express your Muslim identity, but like it did really make me like, I was strong in my conviction that, like we're in the Holy Land, we're so lucky to be close to Mecca, all of that kind of thing. Like I could literally go on the weekend and do this pilgrimage that people save their whole lives to do. So
which is a big money grab.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And then you see people who are like, when they've spent their entire life savings and they're like, oh, maybe we should do it again. And I'm like, it's only required once. What do you think is going to happen when you spend all of this time? Also, like, just pay for other people to do it. Give them the experience, you know, if it's so. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so So then I came back to England for university. Oh no, well, I moved to Dubai after that from Saudi Arabia. So again, that was like another step towards, obviously there were some things that, you know, were becoming very problematic in Saudi Arabia as you're growing up. I think I was 16 when I left and things were starting to kick in because in England, obviously I could start learning how to drive and get my license and stuff. And in Saudi, that's just a no-go. We'd never gone to the cinema in like years because it's just pirated movies. People would go to like Bahrain on the weekend to watch a movie and come back. So these things
sorry.
You know, and yeah.
I know I'm going to cut you off in there. So how is Bahrain? Because I've heard from people that it is like the Western culture. Everything goes on there, you know. It's not like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I've not been myself, so I don't know much about Bahrain. But yeah, considering like where we lived in Saudi Arabia, people who wanted to experience that little bit extra freedom and that openness in society, there, I think they're a lot more chill there. They were back there. Like, they have cinemas, and it's just the rules. Even now, the rules of the city, Jeddah, that I'm talking about, are so much more chill than when I was there. But because obviously the reforms are coming in, so there's areas now where women can like fully. Well, they had areas before women could drive where they would allow women to drive and like not wear the abaya and stuff. But yeah, the expats who really wanted to like have a weekend off away from Saudi's rules would go to Bahrain. So it probably is quite open. But yeah, and to be honest, any of these countries, like even if you go to the weekend for like to Dubai or to Doha or like just like Lebanon, even, it's just a whole different ball game because Saudi Arabia is still like the most like strict of them all. So when I moved to the UAE, I moved to Dubai after that, and I was like, these things that were happening, or like these restrictions in Saudi, which were feeling suffocating, like as you're trying to be a normal teenager, they were kind of like, okay, I thought that Dubai handled these things a lot better. Like the societies, they've combined the Eastern and Western philosophy, if you will, like much better. And I don't have to wear an abaya, and I can go to the cinemas, and I can, sit in a restaurant with people of different sexes. It's all good. No one's going to come and say, what you're doing? Who's your mahram? None of that. And even in Saudi, like, the concept of like just how severe the punishments were, and like even after Friday prayers, these mosques would like announce executions and stuff. I had these thoughts in my mind, but obviously my parents and everything around me just thought this was like the Wahhabi interpretation of Islam. So I just thought Saudi was like on a crazy, conservative trip, and they've taken the most strictest interpretation of Islam. And I thought that Dubai just had a better mix. So it was a really good transition for me because I was going to go to university in England anyway. So Dubai was like a good middle ground. So you still hear the call to prayer, you still have all the Islamic holidays, but life is more normal for a teenage girl. I could like start driving. That was like, and as a girl, when you get your like driving license, it's like especially in our society, it's like freedom.
When I went to Dubai, and this was like me going back after 14 years. When I came from Pakistan, I had that holy land, everything in my head. I never been to Dubai. I went there and I always thought that, oh my God, it's going to be strict. But then I saw this one girl who was wearing the whole black burqa thing, well, hijab. She wasn't covering her face, but she was there having a smoke in public, and I was just like, wow. And even I could go around in Dubai, and I was in a tank top. I did get some looks because I look like them, right? So they were like, yeah, our kind of woman. She is Muslim. Why is she wearing like this? But
if it was a blonde woman, no worries.
Yeah, foreigners have no problem. And then one more thing, what happened to me and the other girl that I was with, we were waiting to catch a cab, and there was another foreign couple that was standing ahead of us. So every cab passed us, nobody stopped, and they stopped for them. So finally we caught a cab, and we're like, what is going on here? And they're like, no, people won't pick you up because they think you guys are prostitutes.
Oh,
and I was
my
just like,
days.
what? They're like, yeah, it's so common. And
yeah,
I had the same experience. I went downstairs in our hotel to have a drink, and I was sitting by myself. And this gentleman comes up there and he's like, I need to see your ID. I need to see, because he, again, was thinking that I was there. And I got very offended. I'm like, you want me to get my passport from upstairs? And he's like, oh, yeah, you're staying here? I'm like, yeah, what do you think this is? But there's so much prostitution. Like when I went downstairs at nighttime, it was just like a different world up there. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, no, it is a massive problem, and it's so crazy because that's, like even if we speak out, the one thing we can't shed is the way we look, and it's like, don't assume, first of all, and that's one thing that's like I always have a problem because even when I walk down the streets here, I'm like, the first thing they look at is like, she's Muslim, she's from that part of the world. And it's like, yeah, but it's just, we're standing up against all of that all the time. But but again, I think that's what Haris and I were talking about in our stream, that at least we can't be branded racist then, we are saying these things. We're like, we're one of you. But yeah, so yeah, I was basically like in Dubai, and just again, I was like, great, they've incorporated a good philosophy, and obviously they put money before Islam, but whatever it is, it's working. Like, they're attracting the tourists, people there can live a decent, good life, and then like you can in most aspects as well. Legally, technically, you should be allowed to choose if you want to apply your own home country's laws. So they just felt a lot more inclusive than what Saudi Arabia felt at the time. And again, like I'm just getting a lot more like liberal with my views, especially because 9/11 had happened as well. So I really was like trying to understand where in Islam, like how can I present my religion in a way that I can't defend that these people did this in the name of religion, because I subscribe to the same religion. So just like dealing with those emotions as like a young child, and then working through it, living in the most strictest Islamic country at the same time while it's happening, like our entire lives changed after that. We started having like terrorist drills at school, like evacuation drills. People in the compound got bulletproof glass for their windows because we had like all the American military and stuff. So there was so many bomb threats on our actual compound. So all of these things are happening in the back, and like even my Western friends would be like, oh, just can you teach me a little bit about Islam? Like what's the first like gulma and stuff? Just because that's like the thing was, if you're a foreigner, you need to be careful. It was like, so I had experienced all of that and just kind of internalized my thoughts on Islam. And at that point, I think my parents had a couple of books on their bookshelf as well about like Rumi and Shamsi Tabriz and like Sufism. So I was like just reading those, and I was like, this is brilliant, because this is a kind of like, this is closer Islam to what I believe in my view Allah should be or is. And it's like way more forgiving and merciful, and God is love and love is God.
So your family, how was your family? Like, were your parents very religious, or were they like, and some people are just by name, they're Muslims, they don't really follow everything, but they call themselves Muslims. Like, that was kind of like my family. So was it like that? Were you forced to do the things, or?
Yeah, so basically my grandparents, they are a lot more like religious and conservative. So they're a lot more by the book, and they'd be like, you should pray and read the Quran, make sure every one of your children, to like my parents, learns the Quran and like reads it once or twice, and they love all of that. But then my parents themselves, as they had started to travel and live as expats around the world, and we traveled like to quite a lot of countries, we'd had all these experiences and exposure, and they are very educated people. Like, they're also like, pretty much, my dad was like moved to England when he was 3, and my mom was born here, so they're very like progressive, and they've kind of grown up around English people, so they are naturally interested in things as well. Their bookshelf was like, so I guess you could say cultural Muslims, but they genuinely do believe it. Like, even to this day, they believe it. So we can't talk about certain things with them. But yeah, they're a lot more progressive, obviously. I think with each generation is just getting more and more liberal, because naturally that's what's happening.
Because if you look at it in Pakistan, the generation now, they're more Ashiq Rasool, and they're all more extreme. It's both on the extreme. The ones that are liberal, I see them, they're so liberal. Like, they're on the extreme, and then the ones that are not, they're also on the extreme. There's like very few people you'll find like in the middle. No, everybody's on an extreme. So continue. What happened after? So you moved back again from Dubai to England.
Yeah, so then basically I came to England for university, and I like, again, you're in a university now, you're meeting people from all over the world, and I was studying law, which also had a module of Islamic law in it, and that's actually the very first time I heard the word or like knew that somebody has left Islam, or you could leave that. Like, that was a concept, because I was outside the like law lecture hall, and this other Pakistani British guy introduced himself to me, but he just fully straight away said like, this is my name, and I'm really interested in this, but I'm not a Muslim anymore like I used to be. And I was like, what do you mean you're not anymore? Like, what? How could you even say that? Like, blasphemy. And I'm kidding.
The first time you see or meet somebody, it's just like, like for me, when I came here the first time to see a white person, I was like, oh, or a Chinese person, I was like, wow. It's the same thing when you meet somebody that's ex-Muslim. You're just like, wow. You're like so infatuated, like you do exist.
Yeah. And imagine I was still a Muslim, so I was like, oh, how, this is crazy. What do you mean? And also, what have you found that's turned you against this? Like, so that was like really, that was eye-opening for me. But that was the only person, even for that entire period of my life, that I'd almost forgotten about that incident after a while, because there was everybody else, no matter what they were doing at uni. You know, you're in England, you're living like a liberal life, but they were still like, I'm a Muslim. And so we all have like our own little versions of Islam that we employ as cultural Muslims or whatever. But so that was like, and again, like I was studying Islamic law, I was reading about like these things to do with the marriage and stuff, but because my heart and mind were like so connected to the religion, I didn't see like, or I didn't consider how deeply like just misogynistic or terrible. Like I was trying to almost like put my mind in the way that these Islamic jurists and scholars have come up with these things, and saying like, oh yeah, okay, so like men are the providers of women, that's why this, and like men are the breadwinners and it's their duty, we have separate gender roles. But like, you know what I mean? Like I was fully buying into all of that while I was studying it, which was crazy. Yeah. So and then obviously like I moved back to Dubai after as an adult, now as more of an adult, and I got a job there and stuff. And then fast forward a couple of years, and I got married, and that kind of just unraveled really fast. Like I think straight after the honeymoon, I was like, whoa, the change in this person.
Love marriage or arranged marriage?
So it was I guess a love marriage, in the sense that like it wasn't arranged by my family or anything. I was introduced to him from one of my like school friends. But then it wasn't like, we never like dated in the sense that like, you know, you could like bring him home to the family or whatever. It was like you meet secretly and you kind of like squeeze in, going for a coffee or a shisha or something, and like get to know them like that. So I'd known him for about a good year and a half. But literally after the honeymoon, when he just switched, I realized like even little things like to the point of his education, like he had lied to me, like things that were so basic were just covered up. And then I obviously like living with him, I was like, oh, there's some serious other issues, like mental health issues here. And obviously I went to like talk to his sister about it. And when I realized that, because I was shocked, I was absolutely shocked. And I was like, whoa, like, is this just me realizing this? But when I told her and she wasn't shocked about it, she was more like, oh no, like she's seen his true colors. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on my own and I need to get out of this situation, because they're obviously covering up. Like I was sold a completely different story. And like, as I said, when he just flipped after the honeymoon, like the guy wouldn't go to work, he wouldn't do any, do you know, like it was just a complete different character. So when things got really bad and like just the behavior turned really weird to the point where I had to Google like something he said to me, because I was like, no, nobody says that. And I actually Googled it. And that's when like articles came up about like emotional abuse and gaslighting. And I didn't even know that these words existed. So I was like, oh, and it's like a checklist of like, are these things happening? Are you being made to feel crazy? Is he actually denying like, you know, real events that took place and saying, no, that's in your head? And I'm like, no, I have it here. Like I started recording things to be like, no, that did just happen. Or like, you did just say that. Like, I'm not crazy. Yeah. So Google, literally.
I find that that's a characteristics of the narcissist people. My ex used to do the same thing. Like he would say something, and then next time, and I'm like, no, it was like this. And I was questioning myself. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like,
you question your own sanity?
Yeah, and you question yourself, and you're like, am I going crazy? And they make you feel like you're going crazy. So when this was happening, you were in Dubai?
Yeah, so I was in Dubai. And another thing they do as well is they really try and like isolate you from your family and your friends. So even my friends are like, Nuriyah, where were you for the last 2 months? And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, you just weren't in touch with us at all. And for me, I think I'm trying to deal with all of these things that I'm experiencing. I didn't even realize that I wasn't in touch, you know? And thankfully, like there's like one cousin of mine he's just such a legend, but he actually kept reminding me, because I would just call him and act like, oh, it's all okay now, everything's fine, I think it was a one-off. And he's like, Nuriyah, do you know this is like the 4th time you've told me this week that this is happening? It's not a one-off. He's literally royally screwing with your like the way you think. Like you're actually just writing these things off, but it's a consistent pattern. And he would just be like, get on the next plane to London. And I was like, no, I can make it work. He'll, fix it. We'll work on it. Just anyway, I should have left and listened to him. But when things got really bad and I did feel like it was getting out of hand, like the abuse ramped up, and there was a lot of financial abuse as well. I wasn't working at that time, so he was making it really, really hard for me to just like live a normal life on my own terms. So I'd always be connected and like dependent on him for literally anything. So I was like, oh my God, I need to also get a job and just stand on my own 2 feet, because that way I can claim my power back a little bit. Anyway, this isn't a conversation on toxic exes or whatever.
Abusive as well?
So when it got to the point where he threatened to be physically abusive and he like was just about to, in that moment he stopped, but I was like, that's it. Like I like, because I was already sleeping with like like I told one of my friends as well that like, if I message you, just please, can you just like call the police to my house or like send them, or just, I want somebody to know that like, because the behavior was getting very, very weird. I'm telling you, like he was watching like the O.J. Simpson trial on Netflix, and I was like, I'd be sleeping in bed and he'd just come and be like, oh, this is a great show, you should watch it, and just like it was so weird. And I just have my phone like held under the pillow, because I was like to my friend, if I can't message you, if I send a full stop, basically, just please come over and send the police to my house. So anyway, he was getting really weird, and I was like, I can't even tell him that I'm leaving. I need to like just find a way out. So my parents were living in Malaysia at the time. That's why I was even more isolated. But I knew my dad was coming to Dubai for a meeting, and I was like, I'm going to just tell him everything. I'm going to go take him for like lunch and just tell him everything and say, I can't do this and I don't feel safe. And obviously in our Pakistani culture, like it's just not, especially if it wasn't an arranged marriage, they're like, you think you just need to deal with your marriage. You can't let your family down. I'm the eldest in my family, nobody had been divorced in my generation. Do you know what I mean? I was like, I've just got married of my own choosing, very young. But again, there was the pressure to do that very young. I would never have got married at that age if I had any choice.
How old were you?
I was 23.
Oh, I know. I was almost married.
And I was done by 25.
I'm glad I didn't. I almost got married, and it was a white guy. It was nice. He was nice too, but we fought like cats and dogs for 3 years. And I'm like, if we're fighting before even being married, just imagine what's gonna happen. So now what are
but those are so good. So you could save yourself so much, because it's like a test and trial thing. There's no pressure. It's not like, oh, let's get married and then see if this will survive. But in our culture, it's like, oh, it's going to look so weird if you just start living. Well, what are people going to say? And it's like, why do you have to have this whole freaking ruxati just so people are like, oh, they can live together now? Anyway, that's all.
So people can just spend money. That's like we're doing the marriage and all this just to show other people. We spend our money just to please others, what people are going to say.
So they can have a part, because this is the only thing they live for, right?
Yeah,
literally.
Especially our community. They're always just like, So how are the laws in Dubai? Like, I don't know, if you called and said, okay, this man is being abusive to me, would they do something?
Well, so I tried it all, obviously. I was like, I went to the police station and I said, look, obviously I live here, I'm a resident and I'm an English citizen, but I'm just telling you, I feel unsafe. And this is what's happening. Because when I did move out and I went back to my parents' house, I literally got a new job and stuff, but he was full on like stalking me and sending like parcels to my office, like actual boxes sealed. I had no idea what was in them. And thankfully, like it would just be like crazy amounts of flowers or something weird. But I mean, you like doing that at work and causing this whole commotion and finding out where I work when my life is separate from him now. It like even just leaving my house, I'd like have to leave at the back and like get the Uber to drop me. Like, do you know what I mean? It had gotten really bad. And people, when I was out of the country for a few months, my neighbors had said that like somebody was walking up and down and like looking at your room window and trying to take videos. And so I was like, okay, this guy really is like, he's full on stalking and harassing me. I would only literally go work home because I didn't feel safe going anywhere else. And I told the police, and they just literally, their response is like, first of all, they're extremely like misogynistic themselves in their thinking. So they, even as a girl going to a police station, it's not a nice experience. Imagine you're like, I would wear an abaya. It's Dubai, I don't even need to, but I would out of respect like wear an abaya, and I'm still a Muslim, so I'd really like be that woman that you're supposed to be. And I was just saying, look, I'm in the middle of getting separated and divorced, but I'm being harassed and stalked and followed. And it got like, he would start, this whole like black magic thing. They would literally leave like potions of weird stuff outside, like thrown on my villa door. And
you were separated right now? You were separated from him? Okay.
Yeah. And he's found like my new house and stuff. Yeah. He's like caught up with my whole life. So yeah, but to cut a long story short, the police literally did nothing. They just enjoy having a woman's presence in the police station. They pass you on from their employee to employee, officer to officer. No one's taking notes. And they're like, oh, but why does he do this? And like laughing. Nothing is taken seriously. And then they're like, okay, just next time, definitely take videos of it, like anything he does to your house or whatever. So I did. I literally installed a camera outside my house and I'd taken videos of like the stuff that was left outside. Again, nothing came of it. That's what I was so dejected by the law there, because I'm also trying to get a divorce and they're sending me to Islamic family counseling, where the guy is just like, oh, how close are you guys to Allah? Do you pray 5 times a day? And my ex was saying there's a jinn on her, that's why she wants a divorce, there's a jinn on, and he's believing this. And I was like, oh my God, mate, do you understand like abuse? I just want to get out. Like, how can I explain to you the Western notion of like an abusive marriage, because you're not you literally are buying more into the argument of a jinn being on me. That's why I'm not speaking my real truth. And he would be like, go away, maybe meet for coffee, talk, pray more, go home and both of you pray 5 times a day and then come back to me. And I was like, you think I want to go for coffee with this man? Like, I don't even want to look him in the eye. Like, what do you...
The only way I think that would work is that you would be so busy praying and reading that you won't get enough time to spend with each other, and then you won't fight. That's the only prayers and reading and, worshiping is going to help. Otherwise, it's like everything.
I've got no time to fight with you because I'm too busy going up and down. Yeah. My days, that probably is part of their thinking. So that was all happening, right? And this is like before they've even registered a divorce in the court. Like, you have to do this process before. And I'm like, and then it's Ramadan as well, so the courts take a break. And this man, meanwhile, can carry on his abuse. So I can't live a normal life. I can't just be, kind of trying to carry on with normality, because I'm constantly paranoid. I'm like, I feel like I'm being watched all the time. So all of this was really like taking a toll on my mental health, and just not feeling safe and secure, like protected in that country. So I was like, that was starting to wither away all my kind of nice notions about the UAE and how they treat women, and it's like equality and they care so much about a woman's respect and stuff. No, when you're on the shitty end of a situation, especially the lawyer that my ex hired, I think is obviously not every guy is like this, but if you genuinely are like, you refuse to let the woman go and you want to play like nasty games and you want to be really bitter and you hire a lawyer, he took some law out which probably like it's not even a thing in most modern GCC countries, don't even know about it. He pulled an ancient Sharia law relating to disobedience of the wife, which is called Taha Zawjiyah in Arabic. So I got a call from the police saying, you have an order on you, which is called Taha Zawjiyah. And I was like, what the hell? What is that? I've never heard of that. And he was like, basically you must return to your husband's house, and if you don't go within this time limit, we can come and arrest you and forcibly take you there, and you can't leave without his permission. He said, wow. Literally said, you can't leave without his permission. And I was just stunned. Like I was on my way to work. I went straight back home. I was like a hot mess. I was like to my parents, there is no way this is possible, right? Like, come on, you and my parents as well, like, they've grown up in England. They know that like this is essentially kidnap. This is holding a hostage against their will. And my dad was like, I'm no way sending my daughter into an environment where she doesn't feel safe. Like, over my dead body, no judge can order you to go back there. And that's what we thought. We actually were like rationalizing this and we're like, there's no way. But there was, like, the police were literally hounding me, calling me, asking me to come to the police station at crazy times. And I'd literally say why, and they didn't even give me a response. The police were harassing me. Do you know what I mean? It was like, just come. It was like 10 p.m. on a Thursday. And I was like, I am under no obligation to come at 10. You should not be calling me at 10 p.m. for this matter anyway. And even in Dubai, like between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., no male officer can force you to go to a station. There has to be a woman officer present. So that actually saved my life as well. When they came to my house one day, and there was four. I actually had friends over, and there was a bunch of us, and there were 4 officers that turned up, and they literally checked one of my friend's IDs and just took him in the car, and then they tried to take me, and I was like, listen, if I go with you to the station right now, let me call my embassy first. And second of all, where's your woman officer? Because right now, my father, who right now is my legal guardian, according to even if you want to play Islamically, I'm just living with him at home. He's just not here, so I refuse to come with you guys without him. And they were like, okay, like come tomorrow morning. But that could have been a much,
Could you not leave? Because you were a British citizen, right? UK citizen. So couldn't you just leave the country, or they had you, you had to stay there, you couldn't leave?
Well, so basically at this point, I'm trying to just get my divorce go through, right? So I'm trying to stay put because I'm so hell-bent on like getting a divorce and divorcing this guy. So anything that he does now, he can't even use the card where she's my wife, or I'm trying to get back. He was using this reconcile card for so long. Like, I'm trying to reconcile. So all my behavior, stalking her, harassing her, zooming into her windows, it's justified because I want my wife back. But so at this point, I didn't want to even leave. I thought that I was still like, okay, the police are doing their thing, but my divorce is going through the court of law, and that's what I care about. And I didn't know that the police stuff could get this serious. That's what I mean. Like, I was fully, when it got to the point where they were like, okay, you need to come to the station now, give me your passport. That's when I'm like, no. And as you're saying, because I was like, no, there's one way for me to like maintain any sort of like integrity in this country and get out unscathed. It's having my passport and having that claim to just not be one of them, or like, you know. And there's a hierarchy in the UAE, the way they treat different nationalities. Obviously, like, you know, sadly, Southeast Asians and us South Asians are like low down. But if you have a Western part,
like crap. Pakistanis are treated like crap in Saudi. They think you're nothing. They treat Indians better, but Pakistanis, they treat them so bad.
Yeah, it's true. They do value Indians, but more than Pakistanis even. There's a hierarchy for all of the continents, how they treat people. It's really bad. Yeah. But again, if you have a Western passport, even like if I do the exact same job as an actual Pakistani, just because I have a British passport, I'd get paid like double for the exact same role. Like, that's how bad it is. So when they actually asked my passport, my lawyer was in the station already, kind of like dealing with things, and she was like, I had just given up. I'd lost hope, and I was about to go in and just be like, you know what, I'll call the embassy, but take my passport. I'll just wait for my divorce. And she literally came running out, and she was like, they are escalating like all these charges on you. They want to prosecute for all of the stuff your husband's saying. They'll like on trumped up charges. And she's like, they're also trying to put this adultery charge on you, charges of theft, like so much crazy stuff. And that's when the first time when she was like, Nuriyah, get out of this country, because as a woman, she's like, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until they've like put you in their, you know, in your place, and like he's won. Yeah. And he bought them off as well. Like he'd grown up in the UAE as well, so like, you know, you have like these kind of contacts and you give people gifts under the table, and so he had literally bought like a lot of these officers in the like my local police station. It was so weird. When she basically said that, I was like, okay, and then I was like, I need to tell like the British authorities what's happening, just so they're aware that like these like charges are on me, because if they have that reason to, if I go into the station and I don't come out, I just obviously don't want to be like a lost number in the UAE. Like, I know where that station, which jails you can lead, you know, you literally go from Al Basha police station, you can end up in like jails in the middle of the desert, and you could just be lost on their system. So I made a life-saving phone call. Thankfully, I called this emergency number for like British expats in Dubai. It was like some emergency consulate number, and I just dialed it. And this man on the other end, I had like a minute of just ranting and being like, listen, this is the case. I was married. I'm trying to get a divorce. I'm separated. I live with my dad. This has happened. Now they're charging me with A, B, C, and D. I'm outside the police station. They're asking for my passport. I just want you guys to know. And he was like, listen, do you have your passport in your hand right now? And I was like, yeah. He's like, do not, repeat after me, do not go in and hand your passport over. Do you understand me? And I was like, yeah, okay. And I was just like, thank God I made this call. He's like, listen, Nuriyah, I cannot give you legal advice, but his but changed my life. He's like, listen, while you can, go literally come to the airport, fly home to where you have rights, fly home to where these charges that you're saying they're putting on you don't even exist here. Like, this is laughable for us. But I'm saying, according to Sharia, and you know how the law operates there, they can get away with anything, and we can't intervene in another country's legal process. So come home, basically. He's like, don't hand it over. And I literally made my way straight from that call, went home, had like packed a tiny bag, and my friend got me on the first flight from Dubai to like Baku in Azerbaijan. And then I just like that sigh of relief when I was out of like GCCS, because they were putting a travel ban on me as well. Basically, the police were like,
Oh, no.
yeah, so I had 2 hours to just get out of the country. Otherwise, they would have stopped me at immigration and taken me straight. And that's when it could have, honestly, I was saved. So like, it was such a narrow margin. And that's why I'm like, I need to speak up, because how many people don't? Like, it was so lucky that I got saved.
Yeah. And this is the thing in Pakistan and Muslim countries. This is what happens. It's like women, they say that, oh, women can take khula. What khula? You know, to take khula, even with my mother. So she wanted to get a divorce as soon as, because it's like the exact same thing. When my dad got married to her, he beat her up the same night. Same night.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they came home and she tells me, she's like, and before that, he was all this and all nice. But then, the wedding night, he beat her up. And then it started from there. And then she wanted to get a divorce before I was even born. But the family was like, oh, everything will be fine once you have kids. Then she had me, then another kid. And it was going nowhere. Like, it was really bad. Like, my dad actually tried to murder my mom once. It's just that he got so drunk that he couldn't. Like, he was chasing her around with a knife. And I saw all this. Like, you know, I am surprised that I'm not mentally, like, totally, you know, disturbed.
Traumatized and
but that's the thing. She couldn't. And they were powerful people. And he would tell her, he's like, you want to go? You can go. Like, she went to US before. And that's when she got the idea that she needs to, like, kind of just take on. He didn't let us go. He kept the kids. So we were like her collateral that she's coming back.
Yeah.
He always blackmailed her. You tried to go get a divorce. You want to go. He's like, I will drag you through court. I will drag you through police stations. I will get you in jail. You won't even get your daughter. So a lot of women will not go for a divorce. And they're so, it's such a, mentally and like even physically, you feel so tortured. Like, I know what feeling you're talking about. Like, when we were in that cab going towards the airport, we were like, if we get caught, we're dead. You know, so I can really relate to you. Like, you know, when that plane took off, just the sigh that you feel is like, I can't even imagine now somebody telling me that I can't leave the house. Like, you know, even in the lockdown, it was like, when somebody tells me not to leave the house, I want to leave more. But just because somebody tells me not to do it, I'm like, okay, I have to. So I'm just saying it's so hard for women back there. And I'm sure there's so many of them right now. There's people listening to us too. And I get messages all the time, like, you know, how do we get out? And there's no help.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like, exactly what you're saying. This is a standard procedure, like, to use the might of the law. Like, you want your freedom, I will bring you down with it. And like you're saying, like, holding children literally as collateral to emotionally blackmail. And it's terrible. And because we were privileged enough to find an escape and get out and, you know, rebuild our lives, all the women who can't, that's the reason we need to speak and shed light on these issues, because they are literally at the mercy of these insanely torturous men. I'd call them torturous. The price you pay for your freedom or wanting some agency over your body, over your life, over where you work, over whether you want kids or not, it's not much to ask. These are basic rights, you know, like, but yeah, they're so heavily suppressed, and the laws in these countries are heavily skewed towards favoring men. That's just the way it is. I was so naive when I thought that, oh, Dubai like applies Islamic law, but they respect women so much. I literally saw firsthand the respect they have for women.
No, so when you came back, when did you make your transfer from Muslim to ex-Muslim? When did that happen?
Oh yeah, so basically, well, obviously I had experienced all of that, knowing that there was this weird Sharia law that's actually at the heart of all of this problem, trying to send me back to this house. But I didn't process any of it because, you know, like, I'm just going through all these motions of like trying to keep the police away and hold on to my passport and think about what to do. But when I got back to the UK and I was like, I like had some time. Obviously, I was really actually proper traumatized. Like I had to go, I had therapy here, which was an amazing form of therapy. I think they actually like wiped these memories from my brain, and I was like, this is brilliant. It's called EMDR. I'll make a video about it separately as well. I think people like would be interested because this is an actual therapy for PTSD. But so I'm like, I was at the point where, you know, like police sirens in the UK, even if I heard them, I'd be like, oh my God, they're coming for me. And so I wasn't leaving the house. I was like, I hibernated for like a year and a half. I was like living with my grandparents. I was just living in like big jumpers and just, you know, like really like just scared and not myself and just different. So when I had like gone through the therapy and stuff, and I started like writing on a blog, and I was like just kind of like venting my thoughts, and I was like, yeah, women don't owe men shit, and marriage. And I was like, I had just learned about like narcissism and, you know, these like borderline personality disorders and gaslighting and all of these, like my whole world had opened up to stuff I'd never known about or been taught. Like I'd never come across or known that some like what emotional abuse is. My little sister who's at school now knows all of these terms. They have counselors. She's like way ahead of the game. And I was like, when I was at school, I didn't know that a person could try and gaslight you, or like, it's so weird. Now it's like common, like it's red flags. All these terms are just out there. But I went through like an awakening. So of realizing this, and I was kind of venting my frustrations on this blog. But then I obviously was like, the law that was put on me, they claimed it to be a Sharia law. And I was like, I've studied Islamic law, and Sharia is directly, at some point, comes straight from the Quran. So what do they mean? Because are these just men who had abused their power, or are they actually right to, like, you know, use this? Like, how could my God have in his book something that would put me through this and potentially endanger my life? Like, my God loves me more than to put that on me. So then I started researching this Taha Zawjiyya and this concept of disobedience and obedience to a wife in Islam. And there were like all these Egyptian scholars talking about it. And then they were describing how to add obedience into the law. And that's when they used this stuff. And then I saw the Quran reference, and I went straight back to the Quran, and I was like literally English, give me all the translations. Like, what's this ayat? What's this Surah Nisa? What does it actually say? And I was just stunned. I was like, they're right. They are actually right. I would use that on me. Like, that works.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like,
it. There's this guy who's asking, why do many women stay in such a relationship instead of leaving or divorcing? And you know what? This is a question I used to ask all the time, because I was around some women that were, one was actually being pimped out, and then a couple of them were in very abusive relationships. One of them actually committed suicide. It is not easy. I didn't know. I would say the same thing. Why don't you just get up and leave? Till I was in an abusive relationship, which was not per se physically abusive, but mentally torturing, you know. And it is hard. It is hard to leave, because what they do is people like this will cut you off from everyone. With my case, I lived with my mom. My mother was there, but they will cut you off from everyone. He cut me off from all my friends. All my girlfriends were, sorry to say this word, but were whores. And all the guy friends that I had were all the men that I was sleeping with. So I had to cut myself from both. Right. Yeah. And then what they will try to do is they will try to take your self-esteem. They will tell you you're not good looking. This dress doesn't look good on you. Like little bitty things, you know, they will tell you about yourself. And then your self-esteem keeps getting lower and lower and lower and lower. And then you're thinking, oh my God, if I leave this person, there's nobody else that's going to want me. Who's going to want me? You know, what are people going to say? And this and this. So there's a lot of layers to it. You cannot just get up and go. And by the time you get that courage, and I'm talking about these Islamic countries where a woman will get this courage that, okay, I'm going to finally take a step. Then you have the whole society against you. Where are you going to go? You can't go to the cops. The cops are going to, drag you through mud, and you can't go to courts. They're going to drag you through the mud. I know women in the West that don't take a step. You know, it takes them ages. They literally have to leave, and at least they have women shelters here, and they'll go in a shelter. So they have, but some of these men will threaten you. They will tell you, you run, I will come find you and I will kill you. If they have kids, they will threaten them with the kids that I will come and I will kill your kids. So imagine a woman being in that situation. What is she to do? Right. So there's, I remember there was one time we were staying in a motel and we could hear this guy beating up. And I think it was like he was her pimp, and he was beating her up like really bad. So we called the front desk and we're like, somebody's getting beaten up. So they called the cops, and cops came, and she had a bruise. You could tell she was getting beaten up, but she said, "Oh no, I fell." She couldn't say anything. And until and unless the woman files a complaint, the cops can't do anything. They can't. So it's really, really disturbing. Now I had one tenant that was renting a room from me, a white guy, and there was an Indian girl that was his girlfriend. She would come over and they would fight all the time, right? And one time I heard somebody was getting beaten up. So I went upstairs and I just lost it on him, and I lost it on her. I'm like, it's women like you. If you don't take this stand right now, one day we're going to find your dead body. And this is what happens. Because that guy was a psycho. He would drink. And so it's not easy for women. It's very easy for men to sit there and judge, or women. Oh, why don't you just get up and leave? Not easy at all.
Okay. Well, Mahleej, you smashed that answer, to be honest. And exactly the process you're talking about, like the dehumanizing, the doing everything working on so many levels, it all adds up. It's not as simple as like, oh, I'm not going to take this shit and walk out. You go through so much. And these threats that you're talking about, it is intimidating. You are dealing with somebody, especially if they're mentally unhinged. They're stronger than you. They're more powerful than you. They can exert their power and authority. When they've got the law behind them, they've got the police behind them, they're already in your head. It's not easy at all. And when they follow up on these threats, because they show you we're willing to go this entire mile, if you want to break away and have your own freedom, it's not easy. But yeah, wow, you absolutely smashed that answer.
So tell us about your journey of leaving.
Oh yes, right. So
we will probably finish up in the next 10 minutes and take some calls.
Okay, awesome. Basically when I read, obviously I was like, okay, this now makes sense. And obviously you can imagine like the crisis of faith that endured. I was like reading the Quran properly with an like adult mind now in a language that I was like, I'm not gonna deny or like try and rationalize the opposite of what I'm actually reading. Like I want to believe what my eyes see right now. And I did it. I flicked through all the English translations, because I was like, okay, maybe somebody's missing some very important words here. Maybe the brackets aren't in the right place. Like, let's see what this has to say. And then I still held it on because I was like, it's not an easy process, obviously, leaving Islam as well. Like, it's just as it's not an easy process leaving a relationship or a toxic situation. So I went straight back and I used the basic Muslim like thing of, oh, well, they don't speak Arabic. Maybe it's lost in translation in English. So I YouTube for the very first time in my life, Is Islam the Truth? And I wanted to hear from like native Arabic speakers talking to me about like Surah An-Nisa and these verses in the Quran, which were heavily problematic. And I found Sharif Gabber and I found Master Arab, and they both speak Arabic. So I literally binge watched their videos and I was like, okay, this makes sense. And actually they're saying, be careful. Like when these Arab scholars or these people tell you, daraba means, oh, just very lightly like a feather with a toothbrush. No, it doesn't. And like, so I was going to like the source point, because, even in Pakistan and stuff, they're like, whether you read it in Urdu, whether you read it in English, well, it's still, you're not getting the full thing. So I needed confirmation from like is there somebody in the Arabic speaking world who also reads this in classical Arabic and understands it with their mind and says, this is as crap as I think it is in English. And there were. So that's when I really just started to be like, okay, there are people out there who have like said the same thing. And that's where my faith came crashing down. Like, I remember I was sitting at my grandma's house. There was like an Allah and Muhammad thing on the wall in front of me. And I was watching these videos on my laptop and I just looked up and I'd never been so disgusted in my life with seeing like the symbol of Allah and like 99 names. And I was like, I fully just, I was like, this is a horrible cult. This is sex-filled. This is misogynistic. This is toxic. And by then I'd obviously like I'd given up with the Quran, but I still was like, well, Muhammad, I've had so like everything about him was nice. He freed slaves. He treated his wife so well. So I was like, maybe he would have at least like, maybe this is just something in the Quran, but Muhammad, his life was so perfect. This man was so perfect. And then I went to like read stories about him in the Hadith. I read like parts of his seerah as well. I'd looked into his relationships with his wives. I finally realized that like Aisha, nobody had ever told me her age before. When I saw the Hadith of like, I was I was absolutely disgusted. Like, married at 6, consummated at 9. This perfect man who we were told like his sweat smells like roses and da-da.
I know they say that he consummated at 9, but I highly doubt it. I think when he got married to her at 6, I don't think he was the kind of man that would wait 2 years or 3 years to have sex with her. I think
he was fondling her before that, wasn't he? Yeah. And he's even said to one of his other companions or something that, oh, why don't you marry virgin girls, because you can fondle them, or young girls, something like that. So yeah, I don't doubt there was definitely some.
Well, that is the thing.
Horrible hanky panky before that.
In our culture, like I would say in the Asian continent, and we get that because I am almost 40, I'm 39 now. And I see that, people are always these guys that will be 40, or they're Asian men, and they're always like, oh, she's old, who wants her now? Because they want to go for young girls.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell you, young girls don't want 40-year-old uncles either. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Unless you have lots of money and like
sugar daddy vibes.
And they're 40-year-olds, like even me, almost at 40, I wouldn't want you either. So this whole thing of having a girl that's a virgin, that has to be a virgin. Men will go around and sleep with the whole town. I had 2 Pakistani men here, both brothers. They were like, they had girlfriends, they partied, they drank, they did every haram thing possible they could, And then when it was time to get married, they went back home, they got married, brought virgins here, put them in the whole niqab, and they stopped talking to me. And so I asked one of the guys one time, because they were friends with my cousin, so they were on the phone, and I'm like, how come you don't talk to me and stuff? Oh, no, we don't want our women to get bad influenced.
Yeah.
So this is the whole thing with virginity. But let me tell you, men, something. As much as women are whatever, women will have sex in their behind just to stay virgins. Even in the Middle Eastern countries, a lot of women will have sex, and then now there's surgeries that you can go get, and you can get your, whatever it is, the virginity back. But this
hymen restoration,
a virgin. I remember in our village, what used to happen when a couple would get married, the older folks, would sit outside. They would go inside to go have sex. They would put a white sheet, and the girl better bleed. If she doesn't, and I never bled.
Sometimes you have to show that to your mother-in-law, right? Literally, you have to prove.
They would go and check the sheets if the girl bled, and if she didn't, oh my God, that's it for her. But a lot of girls don't bleed. A lot of girls will rip that, what is it called? Hymen, I think.
Yeah.
That can get ripped.
Riding a bike, horse riding.
Riding a horse. There's a lot of things you could be doing that you can rip it and you don't bleed. A lot of girls don't bleed in the first time, but for them to sit there and be like, oh, we're going to check, if she's a virgin or not. Like, nobody's asking the guy.
Yeah.
How can we check if a guy is a virgin?
Yeah, how promiscuous have you? Exactly.
There's no way
ridiculous.
We can check a virgin. I was going to say something else, but too much for this show. But it's now when you lived. So you lived in the Middle East. Did you speak any Arabic at all?
Well, I had to learn it for school and stuff. So I can speak basic Arabic, and then just the normal thing that we all have is like Pakistani ex-Muslims, whatever. You learn to read and write Arabic as well by default. So yeah.
I can read it. I don't understand it. I can't. Well, if I was told to write, I could. But this concept of Quran, or the Muslims have you have to, you can bring out English translation, you can bring out other translations, and they're like, no, it has to be in Arabic, and no, Arabic is the only thing. But majority of Muslims don't even know Arabic.
Yeah, so exactly.
And they don't know the translation of what they're reading. Most of them don't even know the translations, right? And the ones that do read the translation, they're like, oh no, these translations are wrong. They're not.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, like why did God, why? I don't understand why God would think that the whole world's going to speak Arabic, and he just puts a book only in Arabic for the whole world. How do you know we're going to speak so many different languages?
Very imperfect way to deliver a supposedly universal message. And then you even say, if you don't understand this Arabic, or you don't know, because even within Arabic, there's hundreds of dialects, and there's even within the GCC and then the Levant, the accent of Arabic changes. So like when I was learning Arabic, I was like, oh, can I learn the Levantine dialect, because it just sounds more softer to my ears anyway than like the GCC Arabic, or like Egyptian Arabic is a lot more different. Even their pronunciation, they like use g instead of j, so it changes a lot. And Allah says, oh, if you can't understand it, then apply the Qurayshi dialect. The Quraysh were like one tribe. How is this a great way as the omnipotent creator to spread your message? Like, it's just, come on, like a 5-year-old could come up with a better concept of getting your message to humanity. What are those poor Amazonians, like, what's their fault that they've never received it?
It's just like Alamiya or Muhammad was so limited, it was just so limited only to, that area. Like everything, if you see Quran talks about, it's in that area. Even like the whole
so localized
covering your face. I don't know, I could be wrong, but in deserted areas, if you go up there, that's why you see the Arabs, they cover their, thing, because there's lots of sandstorms. And to cover from that, they would wear something like this. And I think that's what it used to happen before. And then Mama G was like, oh, this is good. Let's just put it in and let all the women cover. So there's a lot of things they have come up with. It's just so weird. It's so limited. But people think like it's like the perfect book and the perfect man.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because now that I'm not like Muslim, or I know what it, all of that stuff, being out of it and like even just talking about it and open, like, do you not just feel like so much as a woman, like just so free, like the world is your oyster if you don't subscribe to any of this nonsense? Like the feeling, I can't tell you. Like if there's any women listening out there and you have doubts and you're still scared, there are like remnants of like, oh, is there hellfire and stuff. I've got messages where like a woman's messaging saying, I realize like it's so wrong, and it's like, again, like science counters all of this, and the Quran is not really a miracle, but I'm still scared of hell. Trust me, once you take that step and you like leave this all behind, as a woman, you would be so less harsh on yourself naturally.
Yeah.
The way you act, the way you talk, the way you dress, the people you speak to, the interact, like you're so much more capable and in charge of just being yourself. Like individuality, being able to express yourself, everything that Islam tries to like do to erase you from society, you just feel like expressing yourself that bit more. Do you know what I mean? It's just that feeling of liberation as a woman. I can't tell you.
See, for me, it wasn't like, I didn't really speak about the religion, because like I said, like I left it because my mom left it. I just thought that this religion was too restricted, and then because my mom was already from another religion, so I followed in her footsteps, because for me, my mom is my God. But it was for me to talk about Islam. Like my family, my uncle was the first one that actually became atheist, my oldest uncle, and he would talk to my mom, right? And then I have a few other uncles, and every family party, I was always scared because there was going to be some kind of fight. And I remember there was one that was it. That was the last party we all of us got together, because my mom called Muhammad something, and my uncle, and the uncles actually got into a fist fight. They were actually over Muhammad. So I used to, even though I wasn't a Muslim at that time, I would tell my mom, like, why do you have to say this? Why? I was like the liberals that you see these days. I started working with the Pakistani community. So I never, disrespected anybody. I went to Pakistan as a non-Muslim. I worked there and everything was fine. I used to talk about women's rights, women's issues, no problem. But it was when in 2017, when I saw that they were bringing in this Islamophobia motion here, and I was just like, wait a second. I'm like, no. So then it kind of opened my eyes, and especially when Trump came too, right? Like the Trump and the Muslim thing. And then he was like, look what's happening in Sweden. And I'm like, what's happening in Sweden? And then when I looked more into it, I was like, wait a second. I'm like, I'm working with them. Like the whole Pakistani community I was in, and how strong they are. I just kind of took a step back, and I'm like, wow, this is like changing. Like our government has so many of these people that are actually part of Muslim Brotherhood. They're part of like these extremist groups, and we're just you know, and then on top of that, then we had Trudeau give 10 million to Omar Khadr, who was his parents were, his dad was a Taliban, and he was caught in Afghanistan and stuff, but we gave him $10 million. So this is when I was in 2017 when I started speaking up about more of the religion, and it was it was a hard decision because my mom told me, she's like, first of all, you can never go back to Pakistan, because I used to go back and forth, right, very secretly. And she's like, you have to be careful because you have a daughter now. You have a child. So even though you're in Canada, you're not safe. These people are everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. So she's like, you have to make those choices. And I was like, you know what, Mom, somebody has to speak up. Like, you know, we need in each country, at least we need somebody. You know, you're in UK. There's a couple of Mariam Nawazis from UK. We have Yasmin Mohammed. She's, I think, in US. Then we have Haris in Australia. We need people all over. You know, we need more. There's Afat, I think she's in Canada as well. I want to definitely interview her too. And I think to bring Islam down, not that I'm discrediting the men have done amazing work, but if women start leaving in mass numbers, it's done, because that's why they don't give women any any rights, because they know if once women know their rights, they're gonna go out of their hand. That's it. They have no control over nobody.
Yeah.
They're gonna be nothing. They can't control each other, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Be like, bullying each other, but we're the only ones they can bully right now. And we have to listen to them because God said so. Once the women know, God never said that.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I'm gonna sure, you go ahead and say what you were gonna say. I'm gonna give out the link for a few people to come in, and please stay to the
No, I was just saying,
don't talk about other people that are talking about me. I really don't care for anyone else. Just come in here to talk about today's topic, please. Really appreciate that. There's so much drama going on YouTube.
Oh, really? I can't keep up. There is actually quite a lot of drama on YouTube as well. Like, I feel like even if I have a day where I'm like, I just don't want to be looking at a screen today, I come back and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much going on to catch up on. But
I have to do this, but this is what happens on my stream, right? This idiot is here, who we're not going to show, this pig. I'm going to block him right now and kick him from here, because he doesn't deserve to be here. Anyone else? Anybody nice? I just wanted to show it.
Yeah.
He's always stuffing his face and calling everybody else fat.
Really? Wait, so, oh God, okay. blocker.
Yeah. Hi, Mo, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about you guys? How about you ladies?
Good. Can you turn up your volume a little bit? It's like you're talking from way far.
I sure can. How's it now?
Any better? A little better, yes.
Okay. Well, I've been listening keenly what Nuriyah had to say about her life experience, and I got many questions. But my first question would be, Nuriyah, how did you feel when you first let go the hijab?
So that's actually a really interesting question. Because I was so young, as I mentioned, I was literally like 9 years old, and I did it completely off my own volition. Like, nobody forced me to do it. I just was going to Quran classes, and I realized that this was God's expectation for women, and 9 years old is, it's the age to start in Islam. So I was like, I need to do this because I want to go to heaven. But when I actually took it off, because I wanted to focus more on like playing sports and stuff. I was quite a tomboy. I really wanted to like play football, and the hijab started to hold me back in these ways. I actually realized that it was pointless for me, because when I actually took it off, I didn't feel any less close to God. Like, if we're going to go with the Muslim mentality, the Islamic mentality I had, when I wore it, I was like, oh, I'm doing the right thing. This is amazing. Like, this is the pathway to heaven for me. And I was weirded out that other women weren't wearing it. But when I moved to like Saudi Arabia and had taken it off, I was like, I still had the same amount of like, my personality has not changed. My heart's not changed. My thoughts on God haven't changed. So what was just a cloth that was holding me back. But I think maybe it was because I lived in Saudi Arabia and religion was all around me, that I didn't feel like, oh, I'm I've like, you know, downgraded my faith or something. I was just like, look, this thing isn't practical. I live in a country, I hear the call to prayer, I go to do umrahs and all of that. So my faith is still intact. Like this cloth is just kind of redundant, you know?
Right. Yeah, because the reason I'm asking also is we had a friend who came from Tehran not too long ago, and she had to put this hijab around since she was 9 years old, and she's probably like around, I don't know, around 36, 37 now. And she came here, and all of us friends, obviously, we are the proud agnostic atheist, I would say, proud ex-Muslims, and we asked her to remove it. And it was such a big thing for her. She would remove it today, she would come to the party, and again next morning she would be having it back on. And she said she feel like it's part of her being now. So
Yeah.
that's why I thought, like, if you had to explain this a little bit, where people would understand, especially ladies out there who are listening and watching the show and might watch the show later on, how could you overcome such a thing, where you've been using this veil, this hijab for a long time, and you just have to suddenly take it off?
Yeah, see, I think obviously like because it does become such a important part of your identity, and like it becomes part of your daily ritual. Can you imagine like every single day putting this on? Like it's just seeped into your, like you're doing it on autopilot, but it's heavily a part of you. It's like having, I think now, like having a favorite necklace. Like my sister's borrowed it and I'm like, oh my God, like my neck is so, like, where is that? I feel wrong without it. That's the same kind of feeling. You have this connection to it now, and it's part and parcel of your identity. Like anything, like stopping smoking or, you know, shedding a bad habit, it takes like it's a slow burner. It's not going to happen overnight where you're going to feel completely comfortable. I know a lot of women who go back and forth from like, okay, I don't really want to wear this anymore, and then a couple of months later you see them and they're fully wearing it again, and they're just having this like mental back and forth. So it is something that I think like learning about the origins of it in Islam, that really helped, because it took away from me all of those things that you're taught to think, like, oh, you know, your beauty should just be for your husband, and why should all these, like, you know, random men get to look at you? You shift your mentality and you think, actually, this is hypersexualizing me. This is saying that I need all of this to be covered, because if it's not, you're not going to take me seriously, and you're not going to listen to what I'm saying, because even like a strand of hair is sexualized. So when you look into the Islamic origins, and you as a modern progressive woman in the 21st century, even if you believe in like equality and you understand things to do with like the male gaze and misogyny and the hypersexualization of children, all of those things are linked to the hijab. So intellectually, that's where it's like really easy to be like, I don't want to like stand for this concept, and I'd never advocate it or wear it myself. But these women have been conditioned for a very, very long time, and it's asking somebody to give up something that has become second nature. So it like, I know that like some of my friends also transitioned from wearing the full hijab to, you know, like just a slightly more chilled out version where a bit more of hair is showing, and then they kind of like progress like that. So a lot of women go about it in their own ways, and then they feel a lot more comfortable after they've started showing a bit more hair. It gets like less and less, and then they're kind of comfortable having it completely out. And obviously, because they, like, if you're working and you meet people in different contexts as well. I know girls who have tried to shift the hijab, but if they're going to see someone particular, they'll wear the full thing again, because that's how they know that those people accept them, and that's what they're meant to be in front of them. So there's so many little factors, but I would say it is like trying to shed any other bad habit, and it definitely takes time. And it is a slow burner. Usually it's not just like whip it off and then that's it. You're so emotionally attached and connected to this, and you're mentally going back and forth, because again, it's tied to religion and God, and it's, you know, so there's so much at play.
I love the women that wear the hijab, but then then they've got like the tightest clothes, you know.
Oh,
So,
welcome
and,
to
you know,
Dubai, Mahleej. That's literally on the planes as well. Like when we go from Saudi to Dubai, you just see like the abaya come off, and you're like, "What? Everyone, what is happening under there?"
when I was in Pakistan, there was this Pathan family that used to live, and they had gorgeous girls. Like they were older than me, so I was like infatuated with them. They were like in their 20s. They were gorgeous. So they would always wear that burqa and then go. And then
Yeah.
we would be looking at the bottom. We're like, where are the pants? There was no pants under. You know, they would wear whatever dresses, like, you know, you could see the takhnas and like, and we were just like, wow. So they always used to wear that. But I'm just saying, like, I come across some women that, you know, I even have some people in my family that wear the hijab, but then they think that they're pious, they're the best, they're better than everybody else, right? And then they're wearing like these tight clothes and stuff, and I'm like, listen, your religion doesn't allow you to even wear makeup. You can't even put on a perfume.
Don't thread your eyebrows. Yeah.
You're supposed to think. And so that's when it pisses me off when you see like all these women up here, they'll wear the hijab and then they've got like the big booty showing, and it's like, you know, you're tempting. It doesn't matter. Your hair is not the problem here. It's something else, the problem that is going to get you in trouble. Anyways, Mo, thank you so much. I'm going to move on next.
Well, I just got one last question, if I may.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
It's about the same hijab and chador. What do you think? Since y'all are the ladies and you can have this, you can have better understanding than anybody else out there. Is when women on American media, they come up and say, oh, it's our choice that we put hijab or chador on. Do you really think it's their choice, or it's been imposed and being conditioned mentally, like you just said earlier? And with that, I'm going to take a leave.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I completely think it's, I mean, even when you talk about it in the West, when they say choice, yeah, it's amazing that they have a choice in the sense that like it's not ordained by the state, right? But where the choice becomes like a bit murky is, as you said, we have no idea like the natural kind of like the natural tendency of the family to make it a claim that this is something, you know, you should be doing at this age, or like this is something that is a good thing for you to do. All of those subtle like reinforcements that, you know, the hijab is good is happening constantly behind the scenes in a girl's mind in these conservative families. So yeah, it's a choice in the sense that the United States government's not going to say, oh, you need to cover up, like they would in Iran and Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia and these countries where we say that's why you can't say in the West that it's a choice if you're a Muslim feminist. I think that's just an oxymoron in itself. But you no way can play the choice card, because those other, your fellow sisters in those countries genuinely don't have a choice. They will be lashed and sent to prison for not wearing it. But I genuinely think like hijab should not at 9, at even as just until your brain has fully developed, until you're like a rational adult that can decide for yourself, these subtleties at home are the reason that so many Muslim women are wearing hijab, because they just think that that's what's expected. And until a girl gets to the point where, you know, whether you're 18 or you're in your 20s and you're like, okay, you know what, this is a choice I want to make and I'm going to wear the hijab, and it's completely uninfluenced and your family are indifferent to it, that's when I can say it's an actual choice. But until then, the subtle reinforcements at home, I know so many people who are wearing it and they're just applauded by their family because that was what was expected. And whether it's spoken or unspoken, that does affect the choice element in a girl's mind. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
I think in the West, you do have a choice because we follow a secular system. It's a democracy. So in a way, they can have a choice. I don't know what's happening in their home, if it's being forced upon them at home. But I'm just saying here, you can have a choice. Whereas in Iran, you don't have a choice. You know, so it depends where you're living. Hijab is not a choice in Iran. Hijab was never a choice in Saudi Arabia before. A lot of places, even there was a case of a Shafia family. I don't know if you know, it was a pretty big case in Canada, where the girl was murdered by her family because she wouldn't wear a hijab. So there has been, and that's why the West is slowly waking up to all this.
Yeah.
That, oh my God, why would somebody get killed for? You imagine like the Westerners be like, oh, because she was not wearing a hijab, they killed her. Like, you know, you can there's so many other reasons. Oh, she was having an affair, you know, or she was doing something else, but no, just for not wearing a hijab. That's just ridiculous. Anyways, we'll move on. Next, we have Nix. How are you, Nix? How are you? You're on mute.
Hi, Mahleej. Hi, Nuriyah. How are you guys?
We're doing well.
Hi, good, thank you.
Okay, you ask her the question.
So it's so nice to see.
Coffee real quick, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we got this.
It's so nice to see you, Nuriyah, here.
Oh, thank you, thank you. It's nice to talk to another woman.
Yeah, I do live in UK, but like it still takes courage to show your face, you know.
We do get a lot. I have started getting a lot of women. Like each stream, I at least get one or two now. So that's amazing, you know?
Yeah, that's brilliant. Even if they're coming asking you questions, you guys are having a back and forth. That is engagement with women. Oh my God, brilliant.
We had a Muslim woman actually on my last stream. I'm going to put her the bit out. I haven't cut it yet, but yeah, she was from Pakistan. She was Muslim and she watches us. There's a lot of women that watch us actually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
I was just going to say it takes courage. I mean, I was saying like it takes courage to show your face. Like even if you're living in UK, you're like I live in UK, but still like you know in UK there's so many Pakistanis here still like anybody can come and you know like they to the Hatunsha, was her name?
Yeah.
Hatunsha?
Yeah.
Yeah. They tried killing her as well. So like that's why I don't really want to show my face, and that's not my real name either. Nix is not my real name.
Yeah. No, I gathered.
And
so you're ex-Muslim?
Yeah. Okay. I left it last year, like in 2020.
Okay. Go girl. Yes. Okay. Good. And yeah, obviously
and I was
your safety.
Say like thank you.
Oh no, you're more than welcome.
Thank you for coming out and speaking about it, like with showing your face, because and like it does influence a lot of people, you know, like coming out like and showing, because when they see a guys then this women start to think like, oh, their life is different, and you know they can just come out and speak about it, like, and they don't have to worry about it that much. But when a woman comes out and speaks about it, then she like there's much more pressure from her family as well, and like from the society as well, you know. And like a lot of people then say, oh, she left it because she just wants to wear short clothes, or like she just wants to she just wants to be a slut or something, you know. Like that's so dumb to think about. If you think about it, like why would a girl want to go to hell? Like she left it because she wants to wear short clothes. Like you're saying that she wants to go to hell then? Like that's so dumb.
No, exactly.
And I just wanted to say one more thing, like, you know, like you're saying that men are stronger than women, but I think like biologically, like they are like physically, but even physically it's not that they're not that strong as the society makes it to be. Like they're like about 15% or some bit like that strong, but like society makes it to be like when you keep two children together and then you say one is weaker and another one is stronger, then the one you tell is weaker is automatically will become weaker, because like
they believe
in their brains they think that like even it does. I think it does affect that as well, and naturally the society tells men to like be stronger, and even physically or mentally. I think that affects as well, don't you think?
No, I think like obviously that's why it's also really important to talk about men and like toxic masculinity and the expectations on them, because as you said, like it is very societal driven, like this is how a man should be, and men don't really show their emotions, and it's like brute strength and physicality. And I think slowly we're moving away from that now, when it's like, you know what, men can cry, men show emotions, like this is normal, you're a human being, you don't have to be this like macho archetype of a like a man. But Yeah, obviously physically, well, when I was talking about in terms of actual brute strength, if you are being like in a household and you're being threatened by somebody who you know can overpower you, like if they wanted to, that's when it is obviously really concerning. Because as a woman, you could be 10 times smarter, most likely probably cleverer than this person you've ended up with. But yeah, it's a shit situation. But at that moment, you genuinely, that person can carry out something where you would be defenseless to a certain extent because they do have power over you. But you're right, in the sense that when you say, if you tell somebody something long enough, I think there's an actual name for this phenomenon, but you start to believe it, whether that's, and that again links to what Mahleej and I were talking about earlier, where, you know, the disintegration of somebody's mind and like self-esteem by just telling them things about them over and over again. That is literally, you made a really good point, because that is what Islam in general has done to women and the mentality of women. So it's like through generations, these women, like our own grandmas, have internalized all this misogyny and will just pass it on to, you know, to all they think that that's what a woman should go through because they went through it, and they don't see the misogyny anymore because that's just their life.
They just think that that's how it should be. That's how the world works, you know.
Exactly. And they're also like grooming you to be that, and we're like, no.
No.
That does not fly anymore.
Yeah, that's so right. And I was just going to say, like, even for leaving Islam, you know, like it doesn't happen in one day or even a week. It's like a journey. It's like takes a few months at least to like keep on watching someone's videos and then think about these stuff and then leave Islam, you know, because even if while you're leaving it, you don't realize why you're leaving it. Actually, I don't know about others, but for me, I didn't realize I was leaving it. It's just
until you'd left. Yeah. It's true.
Because, like, for example,
I just wanted to say the thing about as soon as somebody or a woman leaves Islam, that's the first thing we get. Oh, she wanted to wear short clothes. She wanted to go around and have sex. That's all she wanted to do. Well, you guys are doing it even when you're following Islam. Muslims are doing it. Men are doing it. They're having sex. They're having sex with multiple partners. They wear whatever they want. Most of the time you go in Pakistan, how many men are always topless? Like, they're walking around topless and they're doing whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. Like, you know, I just can't imagine, like, I see all these women, poor women, going to the beach, okay? And then they're in there with their dupattas and their shalwar. You know how hard it is to get in the water with all those clothes? I did that once in Pakistan. That was, like, my first time where I got in the water with all my clothes.
This is, like, so difficult. Like, when you go to a beach with family.
Yeah, and the men are just in their shorts.
Like, even like when you go to a beach with your family.
Yeah.
Now they have the burkinis, you know.
But before that, when they had the niqabs, they would literally stand in the sea and you just see this whole black thing and they're lifting it up just to get some seawater on their feet. It's such a and the men are deep in with their sons, topless, as you're saying, chilling, having the best time. And this poor woman is like trying to dip her toes and not get her niqab wet at a beach. It's so sad.
I want to show you the burkinis that I see. So I go to Wonderland. It's like a theme park. And oh my God, it's packed. First of all, it's packed with all the kids. These women also want to go and have fun, right? Now look at these. These are the burkinis that you can wear.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing to these poor women? Like, seriously, come on. Give them a little bit of freedom. And that's one thing I saw last time I went there. There was a Muslim guy. He looked Arabic and stuff. So he was there and he had like 4 daughters, one son. And there was like, you know, and they looked all happy. They were all there. They were going through the water park. At least they had the freedom that they could go there. There's women, their men don't even allow them to go to water or near or any picnics and outings or anything. It's not for women to go to. But thank you, Nick. So I'm going to move on. There's a couple more people and then we're going to end this stream. Ratnik Sikorsky. How are you?
I'm good. So I see a troubling trend in the West. On one side, there are people like you, Abdullah Gondal, Haris Sultan, who are risking their lives literally and speaking out against this cult that's been established 1400 years ago. But on the other side, we see alliance of conveniences being formed between Islamists and the ultra-progressive wings of the West, like the LGBTQ community. And I've seen some videos in the past where the feminist movements, the third wave feminists, that is, they raise Islamic slogans during their marches, and they think that it's freedom of expression. And I also see one thing, the big tech and the governments in the West, I don't know whether like how the Islamists have hacked both these entities. The big techs won't think twice before censoring you guys. And same goes with the government. In the Samuel Paty incident, we saw Mr. Trudeau saying that freedom of expression is not absolute. So it's quite concerning. Nuriyah, especially, how do you see this unfolding?
Yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, but you bring up a really, really good point, and it is truly concerning. As I mentioned earlier, again, like even if it's this new wave of feminism, the third wave or whatever you want to call it, the fact that the narrative is so wrong in the West, and nobody is, as you rightly mentioned, nobody's willing to challenge that because it is such a marriage of convenience right now. That's why when Mahleej and I was saying earlier in the stream that the fact that we are essentially from those backgrounds and we're like ethnically that, like we're brown, so we're like bridging the gap between what they think is unspeakable and the woke left have gotten so strong in their conviction that any comment on anything to do with this is just gonna it's like the cultural sensitivities, and that it's what Majid Nawaz calls the bigotry of low expectations from other cultures and the other. And in this sense, it's the woke and the lefts who see that like you cannot shake a stick at Islam in the fear of being called Islamophobic or racist. And then there's people like us who actually are feminists and ex-Muslims as well, or like being able to say, you know what, first of all, let's break down the Western narrative of feminism and this insane wokeness that's going mad now. I think this is like it's getting way beyond the point where we can have an actual like plausible conversation, which is going to lead to something. There's no effective conversation going to take place if, as you're saying, they're Western feminists holding up Islamic slogans, because we need to challenge it from the very root. And that's why I will say that every single time. You can't put Muslim and feminist in the same sentence. You can't put Islam and feminism in the same sentence. That's an oxymoron. And that's why I think, as you said, if it takes risking your life to speak out, but we are literally using their own source scripture to say, look, we've all been dancing around this concept of religion. We've done what we needed to do with Christianity and those other religions. It's time that we apply that same critique on Islam without worrying about the victimhood of Muslims. When they want to cry victim, sometimes it's rightly justified because we also speak out for those Muslims. But where they're wrong, we will say they're wrong. And that's why even being in the UK, I know I speak to UK like UK born and bred atheists or just like white men who don't feel like they are able to go as far as I am and what I'm saying. And I'm like, okay, you keep quiet, I'll say it for you. Because that fear and that backlash and cancel culture and everything has gone so mad. And I think this little gray area that we're in, where we're bridging these two gaps of these two worlds, but we're saying, look, we're not going to like tiptoe around what Islam is as a dogma. We're saying it's inherently violent. It's inherently something you should, like as Richard Dawkins said in his tweet, you should be phobic of things and elements within Islam. And the LGBT community as well, getting into bed, there is such a level of like, I wouldn't even call it plausible deniability, because it's actually like you are deluded to a certain extent if you think that you can be in the same bed calling yourself a feminist and Islamist, or a feminist and Muslim and be pro-LGBTQ+. No, Islam does not guarantee any of those rights for any of those people. And as you said, it's a worrying trend in the West. And that's why voices and people who are like, you can't call me a racist. I'm sorry. I'm going to say what I say. You cannot point that finger at me. My own family are those people. So I think that's why we are, in a way, we are a minority within a minority. And I don't know, I think hopefully, as you said, like the numbers are expanding as people, as Mahleej said, at least one of us spread around the world in different continents. We are going to become a voice which hopefully becomes more mainstream, and people are like, guys, listen to this little niche of this community, because they're saying something that, you know, essentially it throws Islam under the bus, but rightly so. Let's take this, like, let's embrace Western democracy and secularism for what it really is. Let's stop safeguarding these people's feelings and emotions. In the West, we don't operate we should not be operating, we are at the moment, but we should not be operating where we care about somebody's feelings and emotions to the point where we're denying facts. And you know, like, extremism is spreading in England. I've made videos on what the mosques are doing and how they lend a hand in it. Even if England tried to do things like ban halal meat and stuff, I just don't think it would be taken up as well as it is in other parts of Europe, where they're being stricter with this, because the Muslim community here has got such a stronghold now in every level of society. We've got Sharia courts operating, but yeah, that's why it's so important. It's time for, like, people like us to be like, you know, wait, enough is enough. This is problematic.
Most of the problem that I come across is not the Muslim women. It's mostly the Western white women that are calling me Islamophobe or calling me racist and stuff. But I find that since 2017, when the word, like, you know, when Trump came and this word Islamophobia and racism was so big, but now, honestly, people don't care anymore. I see white people, like, they're still posting and they're like, racism, you can keep it, but they've used it so much that it has lost the meaning. And same thing with Islamophobia. They've used it so much that it has lost the meaning. With Trudeau, it's all religion has become all politics. It's all about gaining the votes. Okay. Trudeau brought in so many refugees, all mostly from Islamic countries. And he knows there's no way Islam and secularism is going to mix. There is no way Islam and feminism can mix. They cannot. It's like water and oil. You can't. Islam doesn't give any rights to women. So how are you going to be a feminist, you know, and say that, again, the same thing, hijab is my choice. Depends where you are. It's your choice, right? Otherwise, we don't have any choices. The Western countries are catering to them, but there is a huge amount. I see a big amount of people that are against it. Even the white folks. Like, I learned a lot of these things from the Westerners, because when I used to be in their groups and stuff, and they were speaking about Islamophobia and all this stuff. So I learned all these words like taqiyya and all these, a lot of things from white people, because they are standing up and they are being, against it. They just allowed during lockdown, they allowed the speakers to have azan on speakers, and a lot of people were very much against it. And there was a guy, a Maulvi Imam, they interviewed him and he was like, oh, we're just testing. We're trying to see how people will react to it. And then they might even try doing this 5 times a day. So imagine 5 times a day having, you know, and I get anxiety. Like, even when this fake Rasul comes here and he's like, Allah, but it gives me anxiety. I feel like someone's going to blow themselves up. When I used to go to Pakistan and I would hear the azan, I swear to God, I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like, seriously, it just gives me the creeps inside my body. It's just something, I don't know. It's just something like,
sounds like trauma, Mahleej, for real. Yeah.
And the thing is, with us women, or for us coming out of that cult, when we see, for example, if I see Muslim men dressed from head to toe in their attire, it gives me anxiety. It's like, I always give this example. For example, a woman gets raped, let's say, by a Sikh guy. Just putting an example out there. Now, every time she's going to see somebody with a head covering, with a turban, she's going to get those flashbacks. This is the same thing that happens to us. When I see people dressed like that in a bike, it gives me anxiety. I get frustrated. I get, I don't know. It's just a feeling that I can't explain. So I live far away from them. But sometimes when I have to go in the city and I'm around where there's a mosque, oh my God, like, you will see, Nuriyah, there's like little kids covered from, like, you know, hijab head to toe. And I was just like, it's disgusting. And when my mom brought us here 25 years ago, I never even imagined that we would be talking about this here. And the same people we ran away from are here now. Yeah. So where do we go? If the Western countries are going to cater to them, where are we going to go? we're gonna have to make another separate island of atheist land or something.
Yeah.
Right. Collecting some funds on that. Okay, thank you, Ratnik. We have one more
One
caller.
last thing I wanted to say.
Sure.
That the time has come that you guys wield some political power, because else it's really easy to shut you people down.
See, that's a problem too, because not only getting into politics, even to try to work. I was studying for almost 2 years. It took me almost 2 years to get my financial license. After I got that license, I was told by the same person I used to work for, because of your internet presence and because of the things you talk about, I'm sorry, but we won't be able to work with you. So $2,000 later in 2 years, so we can't even work. In political parties in Canada, I can tell you the Liberals, Conservatives, they're both the same. The Conservatives are the same. Our Conservative leader of Ontario, his daughter is married to a Muslim guy, a cop. So, they're so in bed with each other. There is the Muslim Brotherhood. They're not like Taliban's or other. They don't come with swords and stuff. They're very well educated. They've got their foot in everything. They come here, first they become lawyers. Look at Sadiq Khan. He became a lawyer. He defended a terrorist. Okay. Then they get into politics, because to be in politics, you need to know the rules and the laws. Once they get in there, then they start changing the rules and laws and stuff. So if I was to even go and stand up, they have the white people so brainwashed in being, oh, we can't talk like this. Oh, so politically correct, that a person like me or Nuriyah would be pushed to the side. Oh no, they're Islamophobic. They're spreading hate. They're talking this, they're talking that. So it's very hard for us to get into politics. Plus, it requires money. Where are we going to get the funds from? Even look at the atheists now. We won't get that much funds. We don't get support. We only have very few supporters that support. People don't even share our stuff. They're scared to share our things, like our videos. So forget, like, we do need
people are scared to subscribe because their algorithm changes if they have a family shared account. That's how much the fear.
Yeah, scared of all that. And it's just like, as much as we need all this financial support, because we are sitting here giving our time, we're trying to make a difference. We don't have that. People will go spend money somewhere else, but they have a problem up here. And a lot of Westerners will not. And this is why I wanted to do this in English, and I want to do more English broadcasts, because we can reach people out there. Look at Candace Owen. Like, I love that girl. Like, whatever, I don't agree with everything she says, but she's a strong, fierce woman, and I think we can be like her. It's just going to take us time. It's just a beginning. This is your first year that you're openly talking about this. My first year talking about this. So we are going to have more people, and hopefully I'm hoping that we will get somebody in politics. But again, in politics, to fool the people, even if you're atheist, you gotta pretend to be some kind of religion. Either you gotta be,
because atheists are labeled as, I mean, in America, I think they did a survey and they put atheists down with rapists. That's how bad they think they are. So that whole thing as well is so looked down on. It's treated with such negative connotations that nobody wants to endorse you or support you or give you a platform, for sure. I completely agree, Mahleej.
Okay, thank you, Ratnik. Take care. Bye-bye. We'll go next to last caller, Abdul Fazl Ibn Mubarak. Oh my God, such a long name. How are you?
Hello, madam. Mahleej, madam. Thank you for letting me join.
You're welcome. Yes.
And it's a pleasant surprise. May I speak? To find Nuriyah Khan in here. I just came to know about her today, actually, this very day. I was watching a video of Haris Sultan. He was interviewing you about how you sort of went through divorce and all that shenanigan in Dubai.
Oh, yes, shocked. That whole palaver.
Yes, so it's a pleasant surprise. So thank you both.
And thank you. Do you have a question for Nuriyah?
Yes, I have a question for both of you, actually.
Sure. Before you do that, I just want to show Nuriyah's channel. Guys, this is her YouTube channel. So please, everybody, go subscribe to her channel. This is our English channel. And what's your Urdu channel called?
Nuriyah.
Noor Ilm. Okay.
Yeah, I need to do more work on that, to be honest.
I'm the same way. My Urdu channel is good, but now I have to like really get on to.
It go down a bit. I think it comes up there. Yeah. See, it's so hard to keep both going, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it does get hard, and like I said, it's like a full-time job. It's a full-time thing that you're doing. You know, we are doing, and everybody that supports us, I really, really appreciate your support. It doesn't have to be a financial support. Just share. Just share. You can make fake IDs. Okay, make fake IDs. Use a VPN. If you don't want to be traced, there are ways of doing it. Just that we need all your support. We're putting literally our lives on the line. I know Nuriyah lives in a hub. We are not that bad, but Nuriyah is in the hub of the Islamists, you know.
I'm surrounded, guys. Yeah.
Al-Java and who else? Mohammed
Hijab, all the bigwigs there. Yeah.
I don't even understand. Like, I don't understand how it's like somebody comes into my house, you know, a guest, and they start changing all the rules in my house and tells me, you need to shut up. I'll be like, get out of my house. It's the same thing. I don't know why then again, I know why, because of the vote bank and stuff. So, okay, Abdulji, what did you want to say?
Yes. My question is actually about history related. I don't know whether it's off topic or not for today's session, but let's put it anyway. Put it on. I wanted to ask you both, as you are both from a Pakistani family. My question is that how exactly Pakistani educators, be it school or colleges or universities, how do they justify to students the partition, the need for a separate Islamic country, breaking up India? How do they justify it to you as students? Did any of you study in Pakistan?
I've never honestly gone through the Pakistani education system as a student, so I wouldn't know. I know that the version of history that they do teach, but I don't know, Mahleej, if you ever studied there, maybe you have a better...
I studied mostly like in city school and like pretty good schools. I wasn't like in a public school. So no, they didn't. We were taught Islamiyat. And obviously in Islamiyat, they teach you the nice stuff and, you know, the hadiths where the woman used to throw garbage on Muhammad, like the hadiths that don't exist. So they would show you that. But there was nothing ever taught to me personally that was like about breaking India and stuff. But I can see how they can push people because they want, and this is the thing about Islam, the bottom line is Islam needs to be spread all across the world. That is the goal of Muslims, every Muslim to convert every kafir to accept Islam, right? And they want to create this khilafat, and then they want to have this land where this khilafat is going to rule and stuff. So this is what they feed into their brains, that this is what happened in the past. This is where the khilafat was. And honestly, the last, I think, khilafat ended was like over 100 or something years ago. It wasn't even that long ago. Where they all had this. So I'm guessing that this is how it's put in their head. Plus, don't forget the madrasas. The madrasas are all about hating kafirs and just taking over their lands. That's all there is to it. That's what they did before. And that's what they're trying to do now, but they're doing it differently. Even in India, if you take it, they're doing it differently. They're not coming with the swords now. They're getting into your political system. They're getting into your education system. They're getting into your security. They're getting into your law. That's how they're going to go in there, and then they're going to start changing. You know, we have prayer rooms in school now. Why do we need prayer rooms? I never saw a prayer room in my school in Pakistan, you know, and now they have prayer rooms. They have prayer rooms. I saw a prayer room at the amusement park. Now, I'm pretty sure no Hindu is going there and, you know, praying, or no Christian is going to be there. Okay, Jesus. Only Muslims.
Before the ride, before the roller coaster, let me just say a final prayer. Oh, God. But yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on your question, because I obviously can't speak from my own experience. I've never gone through that system or studied history from that like Pakistani like school lens, whatever. But I do think that what I think they would rely heavily on is the fact that like it was necessary for like safeguarding and expanding Islam, and the fact that I think it's just complete victimhood. It's like Muslims were persecuted, Muslims were and therefore this two nation idea was like the most beneficial to safeguard our Muslims and also other minorities. But the whole concept of, they probably really like it's probably riddled with propaganda, like nationalistic propaganda, like Pak is like the land of pure and all of that, and then Jinnah's idolized, and Allama Iqbal, this whole like deifying of the founder of Pakistan and the talks that were happening. I think they really kind of focus on the victimhood, persecution, and this was like, it's the largest migration in history for religious purposes that a country was born out of. So I think they likely take that angle. Like obviously India is India, that country, staying in Bharat would just cost Muslims their lives and like sanity and freedom. Even people who still try and like justify it in like families who think Pakistan was a good idea, they genuinely say like Muslims would have had no freedom under if they had stayed as one country with India, and that's what they put in their head. Like they fully believe that. I think that just helps conceptualize the idea. I don't know how exactly they teach it. I know there's a lot that's all they teach about in history. I don't think they touch on like other events in the world as much as they talk about partition. But that's a really interesting question, and I think maybe Ghalib would know about that as well. I think he's done a video on the education system. You might want to check that out. I think it might touch on this. But yeah, sorry, I can't answer beyond that.
Pulkit Paul, this is the same thing that the Islamists do, right? This is the same thing what Pakistanis tell us. Don't talk about Pakistan. Don't talk about India. You didn't even hear the question that was asked here. You didn't even hear it, but you just heard India, and it just like, oh, don't limit yourself. Look at this. Keep yourself limited to Pakistan. What are you?
That's so unfortunate.
Like you are acting just like what we're fighting, the state of mind. We were talking about actually how India, they want to break India and create an Islamic country. And you didn't even hear. This is the arrogance. This is the illiteracy in you that is speaking. You need to see what is exactly happening. India has its own problems. We're not even talking about India. We were not even discussing India. But you guys get so offended, so defensive over something we didn't even discuss. And then you are the ones to call Islamists bad. I'm sorry. First, you need to look at yourself and then talk about them.
Also, we can talk about whatever the hell we want. Sorry, we're just invoking free speech here.
This guy was asking me that if I'm an atheist and I eat red meat or something, why don't I eat? Oh, yeah, right here. So if you're ex-Muslim meat eater, why you avoid pork? I don't avoid pork. I just don't like the taste of pork. I love bacon. Oh, I love bacon. I eat bacon.
Bacon's good.
Whenever I can. I don't want to put on too much weight. I love pepperoni pizza. I just don't eat red meat too much. I mostly stick to chicken and fish because of my diet. So it has nothing to do with that. I drink alcohol all the time. I smoke weed.
Preference. Yeah.
Same thing. So, you guys trying to say that we're fake atheists, or I wouldn't call myself an atheist. I would call myself agnostic, because I don't know who created this, but it was not your Allah. It was not your Bhagwan, and it was definitely not Jesus. So that's but this propaganda that Indians, especially the Indians, are doing right now. These are the Indians. Pakistanis are not doing this propaganda against us. It's the Indians doing this. Some of the Indians that you, Nuriyah, Haris, we're still Muslims. We're still Muslims. That's how this just shows how much brain you have in here. Anyways, thank you, Abdul Gulzar. I saw you. Where did you go? So he's saying your free speech subject to viewers' opinions too. Otherwise, don't show it at all.
No, that's literally
your opinion. You can share your opinion. I shared mine about how yeah. So okay. Now they're talking about it. Okay. I'm telling you, it's a subcontinent there. I don't know what they're smoking up there, but I want some of it.
Yeah, seems like some good shit, huh? From the stuff they come out with. Oh gosh.
Yeah. They're always talking about this BC Kush, and I was like, no, you gotta smoke something coming from there. Maybe it's the opium.
I was just gonna say it's probably opium, because
Ray's saying that there is some hormones I guess you can take to get to lactate. I don't know. I asked my doctor when I was worried about it that can I take something like this? You know what I actually did, and I don't know if it helped or not, but they told me that your placenta, what they do now is like your placenta is something that is inside the, I believe it's in the whole, when the baby is in that sack, it comes with that, I think, right?
Yeah,
And it's very
people eat
like
that now.
So
God.
what they do is they dry up the placenta and then they make these pills of it. And they say if you know, take those pills, it's supposed to help you create more breast milk and it helps you heal your body better. I was healed very fast, like I wouldn't lie about it. But yeah, the lactating part, I don't know. But some women will eat their placenta. I was just like, that's just yeah. But you know, there's a lot of things you can say. This happens, that happens. What? But anyways, we are at 2.5 hours. I've taken enough time from Nuriyah. Thank you so much. Any last words at the end, Nuriyah, you would like to say?
No, just thank you. That was an absolute pleasure, and it was really enjoyable. We should do more of these, and we'll have like specific topics or whatever to go into.
Probably after Christmas, because I'm like really busy, or maybe like once Xenia gets off school, then I'll arrange that whole women thing and we'll call it, I don't know.
Oh yeah, because it is definitely a busy season with like Christmas and all this stuff coming up for sure. But yeah, that would be really cool. The women get together and we can just kind of go over some stuff. But thank you so much. It was really enjoyable, and thank you so much for having me on your channel, and to all your viewers and everyone for your support and your love. Thank you guys.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys. So what was I going to say here? I will show you again Nuriyah's channel, and I will post it in the description also below so you guys can find her. This is her Urdu channel. So please do go and subscribe. There's like about 100 people here right now. Do subscribe to my English channel too, because we need to get up there, and you know that we are not, you know, pleasing the dunya awam. So it is taking us slow. You know, we're getting there, but we're getting there slowly. That's fine. So this is her Urdu channel. So make sure, and I'm going to give you the link below here. So everybody that is here, please go and subscribe to her Urdu channel. Even if you don't speak Urdu, just go subscribe. Okay. And then I will give her English channel down here as well. So you guys can follow her up there. You have to type Holy Humanist, and you will get Nuriyah's channel right here. Okay, so this is her English channel. It would be a great help if you guys can do this.
If you like these videos and want to support me in my activism, then you can support me on Patreon or PayPal. Stay free, everyone.